heading towards Orlando. There are
extreme catastrophic
and
major hurricane Melton
coming hours, which could be life-threatening.
If we have a look now
USA.
at some of the camera shots we can show you. This is the
Weather
scene at University
to UK,
of Tampa.
24.
Hurricane Milton hit Florida just after midnight UK time. It is, of course, still dark there right now, so it's a little hard to work out, but I think you get a sense of the strength of the winds and
times down
the
there.
rain.
And it is the
Let's take you to Fort
10th
Myers,
October today.
which is just south of Sarasota. Of course, that's where the hurricane first hit, and you can still see
Thursday morning, guys.
significant winds there, buffeting the infrastructure and the landscape, and rain coming down as well. Let's bring you the latest from our correspondent, Steve Nibbs.
Hurricane Milton made landfall with its full force and spread slowly across central Florida.
Blimey.
Over the Gulf of Mexico, the storm showed its strength, ripping up waves nearly 30 feet high.
Wow.
In St. Petersburg, the roof was ripped open on a stadium set up to house thousands of emergency responders. Milton was taking hold.
Crikey.
Now at this point, it's too dangerous to evacuate safely, so you have to shelter in place and just hunker down. But if you start to get in a situation where trees are snapping, power's popping, you do have to treat it like a tornado.
Tornadoes hit in several places.
Eastern side of Florida.
The sheriff's office in St. Lucie said that people there have died as a result. In Fort Myers,
I did predict this, guys.
Buildings were destroyed in an instant.
I'm a true weather god. I'm the best weatherman in the galaxy, best weatherman in the universe. I predicted this on the 1st of March. It's going to happen this year, this bad weather for the Americans. Look at my econ on the 1st of March, 2024.
Across Florida, Hurricane Milton's power intensified. Strong winds, heavy rain battered the west coast.
Please subscribe to my Sean Age Evans.
I've had a lot of anxiety over the night about it because it is my first hurricane, but I just wanted to see the water and, you know, get the whole Florida experience.
Tonight, the first images now coming in.
The US news networks are following Milton's progress closely. One broadcaster showed the potential impact of the rising tide.
The water is expected to rise even higher at 6 feet above the height of most people. Vehicles get carried away.
Oh my God.
Structures start to fail. Just look at this.
And it's this and the strong winds combined that are causing the most concern.
This is life-threatening inundation. That water is going to violently be pushed onto dry land by the winds associated with Milton as it makes landfall this evening.
The lethal effects of Storm Helene a fortnight ago were also worrying many as Milton takes hold here.
Just a few weeks ago in Helene, we lost 11 or 12 people. All were in evacuation zones.
This is
so our message has been
destructive,
for
chaotic,
the last 48 hours,
carnage,
to an evacuation zone if you're
deadly hurricane.
So far, over 1 million people have
Melton.
lost power as Milton
Major hurricane.
predicted havoc. Those still in the path of the storm can now
a 100-year hurricane event. Category 3 to 2. No joke.
So let's have a look at some of the big numbers associated with the hurricane. Around 7 million people in southern Florida were ordered to evacuate. Those choosing to stay being warned that they must fend for themselves.
And they will now afterwards.
So in all, that's affecting people along a stretch of more than 300 miles of coastline. You can see on the map, where it's going to hit. Nearly 2,000 flights have been cancelled in or out of the US, with 2 major airports in Florida shut. Hurricane Milton brought with it winds of around 120 miles an hour when it made landfall, having seen fluctuations in its strength over the past few days. So let's speak now to our North America correspondent Tom Bateman, who's in Orlando.
This ain't normal, guys. This is unusual weather. America and Florida.
Tom, I just wonder what sense you can give us of the damage that's been wreaked so far. As we understand it, the storm possibly not quite as strong as might have been expected.
No, not as bad as we thought it would be, luckily.
Well, Charlie, remember this was a Category 5 storm when it was out in the Gulf of Mexico, the highest possible, most destructive storm there is. As it made landfall, it had downgraded to a Category 3, still very, very forceful. That is still an extremely dangerous hurricane. It has downgraded again as it's barreling its way across the state of Florida to a Category 2, but that is still a storm that can do very severe damage to buildings. I think one of the other big risks is about flooding. Now, we've seen the rain ease off and the winds ease off in the last 10 or 15 minutes, actually, since we last spoke to you an hour ago. But we've seen a huge amount of rain here. And we've just had, in the last few minutes, flashing up on our phones, another flash flood warning, talking about life-threatening risks from the amount of rainfall and flooding that is hitting these central parts of Florida. And the other big risk and what is doing a lot of damage here has been tornadoes. We were driving down south on the interstate highway. We saw the sky moving in, darkening in front of us as the wind and rain whipped up. You could really see this thing moving in, and we were hearing warnings on local radio just of the sheer numbers of tornadoes in other parts of this state. And as we've been hearing, a sheriff in Lucey County, that's on the Atlantic coast,
that's an F4
said that there were 17 suspected tornadoes in the space of 20 minutes there. One of those hitting a leisure resort in that particular county. A number of fatalities, he said, and the rescue and recovery work being carried out there now.
Tom, for the moment, thank you very much.
Crumbs.
Well, let's speak to Karen now. I saw you listening with interest there, Karen, to what Tom was saying. I mean, those pictures of tornadoes, first of all, which was a bit earlier, wasn't it?
Hey, the hurricane.
Extraordinary images, and there's been loss of life associated.
I did predict this weather.
Also, Tom was talking about the storm surges and the flooding. There's a lot of risk right now, isn't there?
There
certainly
is, Charlie. Of course, hurricanes do spawn tornadoes, and we're not out of the woods in terms of that. As Tom was saying, when Hurricane Milton made landfall, it was a Category 3. It's now actually a Category 1. It's got sustained wind speeds of 90 miles an hour. The gusts, of course, are more than that.
That's still enough to cause damage. Trees are
has gone as it makes
take them down.
And it's going to continue to push steadily.
It's got leaves on the
It's
trees.
actually the third most rapidly developing Atlantic hurricane on record.
Wow.
Now, if we follow the track of it,
nice to Hurricane Katrina.
Push out into the Atlantic. We still think it will be a Category 1 hurricane in doing so, but as it goes into the cooler waters of the Atlantic, it will start to lose its energy source, so it will weaken. The energy source has been
the Gulf of Mexico.
Above average temperatures in the Gulf of Mexico that have been feeding it. But look at the wind, even as it moves away, still the east coast is going to be whipped by those winds.
Oh, there goes
the amount of rainfall we've had.
Cape Canaveral.
This is key. I'll just show you the end of it.
Space station area.
Millimeters plus in this area here. In fact, in St. Petersburg, there's been 17 inches of rainfall. That's classed as a 1 in 1,000 year rainfall event for this particular area. So the storm surge is another worry in the west, but also as the hurricane crosses in the east too. So as you said, Charlie, a lot still to contend with.
Out of the woods, all right,
Carol,
there,
Carol. We'll see you a little later on. Just a reminder, you can follow all the latest developments.
This is very dangerous.
And its impact
I hope you like this video.
On Florida.
Please subscribe, share, sign, Jevers at the force. Be with you always. Go spot the need sign it.
There is a theme developing this morning in relation to the weather, isn't there? Because we're looking closer to home in Europe.
Yeah, not as bad as what we're seeing in Florida, but still.
X Hurricane Kirk.
We're talking about northern France, which has been struck by strong winds and heavy rains as Storm Kirk has swept through the region. The French Weather Authority has issued red and yellow flood warnings. As much as 1 month's worth of rainfall was seen in the space of a day.
That could have been us in the UK. Easily, we got away with that.
Spain, leaving 300
we got lucky.
people without power. Now, analysis of the challenges facing the Chancellor.
Well, I hope you liked this video. Please subscribe on Sign Jobs, my friend Sparky and Jim every Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. ITFRI Fiends, Surrey Hill Radio Show every Friday. And this is my friend Shane Libis in the Loop every Friday at 10 to 12 p.m. on Surrey Hill Radio Show Friday. And it's my friend John Lar Show every Sunday at 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. live on the Woking Radio Station Show every Sunday. On Lar Show, please subscribe on Sign Jobs. It's a serious and destructive climatic hurricane stormy weather across Europe times. X Hurricane Kirk in France and Spain. Please squash on Sign Jones. Might be happy. And chilly weather across northwestern parts of the Europe around UK start off this coming Thursday and Friday. Please squash on Sign AJ.